Something that I really wanted to do in Path of Exile 1, basically since the Shaper nodes on the Elementalists were introduced into the game, was to make a build that takes full advantage of them by scaling the effect of non-damaging elemental ailments. However, that never really made a ton of sense. Heavily investing in the stat was always a bit difficult, and just didn't yield enough to really justify doing it. But in 3.26 Shaper nodes were reworked, and now they're quite a bit stronger and easier to reach high numbers with. In this league, I finally decided to put years of previously shelved ideas to a test. Of course, when talking about a build that really wants to scale the effect of non-damaging ailments, that spell that immediately comes to mind is Lightning Conduit. It just straight up scales its damage based on the magnitude of shock applied to the target. Lightning Conduit has a very well established build that uses the Shaper Storms node and the semi-automates shock application with Orb of Storms. Zizzaron has a update build guide for it, and if you're just looking to play Lightning Conduit, go follow that build guide. This build is better than what you're going to see here in almost every aspect except convenience and maybe clear speed in tier 16s. But what I wanted to do is to push the shock aspect of Conduit further. There are two spells in the game that have inbuilt bonuses to maximum shock: Shock Nova and Crackling Lance of Disintegration. Both have 10% extra on the gem and another 10% extra from 20 quality, putting me at 70% maximum shock. Lightning Mastery then adds 15% to that, making the total easily available max shock on these spells 85%. There are two major problems, however. Reaching that shock value through guaranteed shock from Shaper of Storms and automating shock application for Lightning Conduit, because if I don't automate it, I will have to alternate casting Lightning Conduit and the shocking spell, which will significantly add to the damage increase I might be gaining from the higher shocks, as well as make it less convenient to play than even the Orb of Storm version. To solve the automation, Lightning Conduit and Shocking Spell can both be put into Spellslinger setups. Unfortunately, GGT foresaw the obvious fact that Conduit would be insanely strong if triggered automatically, and put this line to counteract it. The spell's cast time is added to its cooldown if triggered. This immediately removes one of the major benefits of triggering spells, which is bypassing the spell's cast time, and leaves me with a bunch of downsides. Spellslinger has an inbuilt less damage multiplier on it. It eats up a support gem slot, and it reserves my mana. CDR is also harder to come by than cast speed, and while cast speed does actually reduce the overall cooldown, it's only half as effective because it only reduces the Conduit's half of the cooldown. The Spellslinger's innate cooldown can only be reduced with proper CDR. Still, not everything is horrible, and I can win back some of the damage. First, as mentioned before, Spellslinger allows me to automate spells that apply very high shocks to the target, as well as Wave of Conviction for exposure. Secondly, I can use Frenzy as triggering attack, which has a benefit of granting easy friendly charges. And when linked to Power Charge on crit, it gives Power Charges too, with full uptime as long as I have the target to hit. All of this happens just with the press of one button. And you can even further automate things like Conductivity and Assassin's Mark with a trigger craft on the wand, leading to true one-button range build playstyle. But what about actually getting those 85% shocks? Well, it can be done by simply picking up a bunch of relevant passives on the tree, cluster jewels, and gear, which is what I did to start with. But all these passives are scattered all over the tree, and each one comes with some sort of opportunity cost. Wouldn't it be nice to have a ton of ailment effect on just one item with some other benefits as well? Yes, and lucky me, there is such an item. Stormseeker Gloves give up to 100% increased effect of shocks and chills, as well as immunity to respective ailments, while leeching ES and mana. With mana things are pretty easy. Your spells cost mana, therefore when they are cast you will be pretty consistently leeching. Doing the same with ES is trickier. Sources of ES over leech are not applicable to this build, but there is a tech that allows anyone to get pseudo ES over leech, as long as you can take one of those two keystones. Taking Ghost Dance or Divine Shield and balancing your evasion or armor, respectively, to be just below Energy Shield doesn't allow Leech to feel your AS and be removed, thus allowing it to fully run its course and be consistently up. I elected to go for ES evasion setup with Ghost Dance here, since that's what the base stats on the item are. A thing worth noting is that the combined cooldown of Spellslinger Conduit is pretty big, and wands have a decently high base attack speed. Combined with miscellaneous attack speed increases here and there, I'm immediately over-triggering, which is bad. So the next best thing I can do is to go for an attack speed that is double my trigger rate. To get there and also to fine-tune the attack speed to get maximum DPS, I use faster attacks at specific gem level linked with Frenzy. If I get more or less attack speed or CTR, I can raise or drop its level to match the new trigger rate. The rest of the build is just generic spell crit scaling. I have 6 power charges, crit wand, crit amulet, crit shield, and crit on the tree. Crafts introduced in this league are also huge for this build. In particular, the Storming Ash Graft with its Wreathed in Light skill drops a new type of ground, Radiant Ground, which gives me lucky damage. This is a huge damage multiplier for hit-based lightning skills. There are also a whole bunch of incredibly useful mods I can get on one of these grafts, so I will at some point be growing more hands. For Foulborn uniques, so far the only useful one I saw is Foulborn Barracks Respite, for explosions and shock prolife, but I'm not really itching to get it right now. This build can be pushed a fair bit further by getting more CTR, more crit multi, and some optimizations. However, I doubt I can easily get its damage to a point where it will be able to take on super endgame content. At the end of the day, I'm paying a heavy price in damage for convenience. But that being said, for me this build is still a successful experiment. It allowed me to clear my Atlas and get 2 Void Stones on SSF, and it was better than I expected. I am fully confident I will have no issues getting the rest of the Void Stones and Pinnacle bosses when I finally get to it, as well as have a good time farming tier 16s and equivalent content for my next build, which is really all I want from a league starter on SSF. If you take anything away from this, it's the glove tech. This is far from the only build that can benefit from these stats, and this is a 1C extremely common pair of gloves, which on softcore trade you can easily get with good rolls and corruptions. I will likely push this build a little bit further, then start thinking about something that can actually do ubers for me. POB should be down in the comments, and you can always import my character from POV Ninja.
Let's get it done! Cover me! Dreamers will! Let's see you get through this! Let's see you get through this! Proof against the swarm! Silence falls! Existence is stilled! Begone, fiends! Dreamer, I won't fail! Existence is stilled! Dream not! I'll have to stay behind. You must escape!
Serious man.
You did it!